We're on a sister ship. We got this sisters, you roll with me and I'll roll with you. We got this sisters, you roll with me and I'll roll with you. We got it. Oh, let's talk about it.
This is hot.
Let's talk about it. Sistership, we got it. Oh, let's talk about it. Ow. Woo! Welcome to another Sistership Sunday. I am Deborah, and with me today, we're going by first names because we're all cool like that. So we have Kat, we have Marcy, Sherry, and we're just gonna have a dialogue today talking about being an empty nester. Wow, that's a deep topic and certainly one that a lot of people experience. So we're going to start at Sherry's end. Sherry, tell us about your empty nester years.
I have 3 young adults, and they have families of their own. Being an empty nester, it has its perks, but technically, I didn't call myself an empty nester, although I fit the
Profile.
the definition of one,
Mm-hmm.
because I always want my family to know that no matter what's going on in the world, home is safe.
Yes, right.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
It's where you come when your issues are not, or your life is not going the way you want. I don't care what the struggle is.
Come home.
Come home.
Come home.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree.
So I actually got used to being with myself.
Oh.
I mean, that's the most important part about being an empty nester is learning who you are in that time frame and that place that you are.
Are now, yeah,
Yeah.
because we're completely different now than we were certainly years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Life has changed on many levels and in many ways. And when you're an empty nester, I think it gives us a time to reflect on who we are and where we are and where we're going. Kat, you want to tell us some of your empty nest stories?
I prefer not to be an empty nester.
Oh, okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with
I
that.
prefer not to be an empty nester. Like my children, my grandchildren, they're all in Atlanta.
Okay.
When I got divorced, I went to Charlotte. My son was with me, but then as he got older, he wanted to be back in Atlanta.
Right.
But they're grown, 21 and 31. My grandchildren, 13 and 4.
Okay.
So now I find myself, I'm in Charlotte 2 weeks, Atlanta 2 weeks. So I'm going to wait probably until January when when the market is better, and I'm going to go and purchase another home in Atlanta.
Okay.
So I can be closer to them. And because I don't want to be an envelope grandma.
Yeah. Okay.
Like my son, he's adulting, but he still needs me, and so does she. Like they all still need me,
Yeah.
and I need them.
Right.
So, like when I'm there, when I get to come back to North Carolina, I'm good. I get a break.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I get the break, and I'm home, and I'm at peace. I work from home.
Okay.
I don't have to hear noise or anything like that, but
Mhm.
I miss it when I'm not there.
Yeah.
So I'm an empty nester. I've been an empty nester for about 6 years.
Okay. Okay.
But I prefer not to be.
Yeah.
I love being around my kids and my grandkids.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
I have 10 children,
Mhm.
and several of them live both in my home, and a bunch of them live around, the communities, close by to where I am. And I have one that's out in LA. And the thing is that, I would much prefer, like you said, have him and his family closer.
Yeah.
But his field and what he's involved in is literally in LA, and he can't do that here on the East Coast, what he's doing. And so I live on FaceTime.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm watching my grandson,
Learn.
I'm
Mhm.
watching him on FaceTime, I'm watching him on Instagram, and things like that. And, I said to the kids, I said, when you come out here, I said, he's going to think I'm only, like 2 inches high, because that's all he sees on FaceTime,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And
But he'll know you when he sees you.
last night, he'll know me when he does. And last night, everybody was out of the house, was gone, and my husband and I looked at each other and said, "Okay, now what do we do?" We did, like I said, we went out for dinner. It was nice. We came back, and the house was still deathly quiet.
You're like, what the heck?
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. You're not used to it, and you need to have that continuous bonding. I mean, Sherry's got, like I said, the kids know they can come home.
Mhm.
My kids, the door is never locked, so
Right.
they can, for the kids. So they walk in and out. Even like I said, as adults,
Right.
I'm lucky to have adult children who like their parents,
Who like to be around you,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
who like
Exactly.
their parents.
And I think that's the key,
Yeah.
to have children who truly enjoy being around you and who love you.
Yeah.
I think if you
But
have,
those are still two different issues. They can love you without liking you.
that's
And you
true.
can love
Yeah.
them without liking them,
them.
too.
Exactly.
Okay, because we went through that stage
Oh,
as
let
well.
me tell you,
Yes.
Still do.
there are times.
Mhm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Still
Absolutely.
do. And like I said, having a large family, like I do, and having such a, diverse family like I do, it brings a lot of different issues to the table.
And salute to you, because
Oh.
you shared some of your story, and God bless you,
Yeah.
because you've been doing it 32 years, you said? How long?
Foster care, 36 years.
36 years, and to bring that kind of blended family into this community at that time, I know because I grew up in an interracial relationship.
Mhm.
Well, my parents,
Right.
and I know how hard that was, and I couldn't understand why my mother would continuously do that. Like every time we walked into a neighborhood, like somebody was saying something, and I was always embarrassed, and you stood
One
10
time-
toes down.
Yes.
When
Stood her ground.
Yeah,
Yes.
when my boys were in college, locally in college, and they lived at home, or they were at home for whatever reason, and somebody would come and knock on the door, and I'd answer the door, and they'd look around and they asked me whether or not, does so and so live here? And I would holler downstairs, "You forgot to tell them your parents are white." That, like I said, they're so used to it, and now, not necessarily being, like I said, empty nester, because I still have adult children that live in my home
Right.
separately, like a mother-daughter type home.
Right.
But it's still nice on occasion,
Mhm.
to have your own time, that I don't have to do something for
Right.
somebody else.
Absolutely. See, that's
Now
that's
it's a
what I'm looking
choice.
forward to. That
Mhm.
I don't that time when I don't have to do anything for anyone else. But I
That's not
like
gonna
having.
happen, Janet.
That's what I like having my grandchildren and my daughter around. Even though I feel like clobbering them all at times, which I'm sure we all feel that way.
Mhm.
But I think I grew up with siblings. I grew up with people, but I have to say, my period of being an empty nester was like phenomenal. I loved it. I left my daughter where I raised her in New York. We lived in Lenox Terrace, and so I felt comfortable leaving her there because there was the doorman, and then there was all of the people.
It's a
who
safe
knew us.
environment.
It was a safe environment, and then I went on, and I was an empty nester for a few years. I kind of built my own little abode. It was beautiful. It was serene,
Clean.
clean. It was a new building. I had bought a co-op in a new building,
Mhm.
and it was just wonderful. And like on Fridays, I would have girls' night. So I mean, my house would be full of my sister friends, and we talk, and it was just wonderful. But let me just say that no matter what, the family comes first.
Yeah.
When it's time, and then my daughter and my oldest granddaughter moved in with her boyfriend, and and the family just kind of grew, and then we moved up here, and the family continued to grow. So it's been an interesting process going from parenting to empty nester to parenting back to parenting again.
Yeah.
And as I evolve and grow closer, I'll be 69 in January, and
Oh, January what?
January 9th.
Oh, you're a Capricorn.
Yeah, baby.
Yes.
Hello. And as I get older, I look for more free time. I need more free time to kind of chill out. You don't have the same resilience, I think, the
Energy.
older we get, the same energy.
Mhm.
And I think our children tend to think we do. They
Yes,
see
they
us as
do.
we were, not as we
Superwoman,
are.
That's correct.
I'm fortunate enough, my daughter who lives with us, my two daughters that live with us, her hand works the house, same exactly as mine does. But there are times that she's smarter than I am, because she learned how to parent from myself, and now
Right.
she adds her own flavor to it,
Right.
and teaches me things. And like I said, when you want to have that downtime, at least I know I'm comfortable, saying, okay, I'm not making dinner tonight, and
she'll take over.
She can take right over again as far as that goes. So it's nice, and we have a large home, and now I have like empty bedrooms.
Wow.
So it's the strangest thing to have empty bedrooms.
Well, when I need to run away from home,
You're
I know where to
welcome to
come.
come.
Okay.
Look,
When I need a night away, I head over there.
you need that though sometimes,
You do.
especially if everybody's in the same household. Like I said, I'm moving to Atlanta, but they're not gonna be living with me. Well, my son will,
Right.
but I want my I want them to be able to come
Could
whenever
come,
they
yeah.
want,
Absolutely.
but they have their own space.
Absolutely.
I'm fortunate
And
that
you don't have that, do you? Like everybody's like right there.
Everybody's right there. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
I
need
don't
to
have
run
that.
away.
Yeah, so I need, and this has been going on now for 20 years. So I need a space where I can disappear every now and then, and maybe a few extra bucks where I can disappear. When you have a household full of people and you're living on a fixed income, there is no extra money. At least at this point. My oldest granddaughter's out. She has her own place, her and some of her friends. She's in her last year of college at ESU.
and she's very successful.
And she's very successful. I mean, she takes care of herself, and she went out and got her own car, and then the next thing I know, here she comes. She's driving up with a BMW. Kids today don't wait for things. If they want it, they get it now. See, we come from a generation where it was like, oh well, you get it down the road.
Or you need permission.
Oh, you need permission.
Yeah.
The kids today don't wait they don't ask for permission, and they don't wait. If they want it now, they find a way to get it now and to take care of it, to pay for it.
Tomorrow, you promise.
Absolutely,
nobody. Get it while you can.
Exactly.
One of the challenges of being an empty nester is that when you have adult children and they are out and they have families of their own, you are no longer taking care of just that one home. Your concerns get more.
Yep.
Your concerns are general. You're still offering the help, and if you see them struggling in any way, you don't want to see them struggle. So your goal is to figure out how you can help
Exactly.
Without offending them.
from where you are. They're not offended. These young adults nowadays are not offended.
No, they're not.
Like like my son. My son I have one son, I have two daughters. Although my daughters are on their own, my son is on his own. They have their families. My son will call, Mom, you taking your, the medicine, or you all right? You need anything? Is there something I could do for you? Whereas I have a daughter that lives around the corner from me. And my granddaughter thinks that she lives with me. The one thing I had told my children is, I don't want not to be a hands-on grandparent. It's hard to ever explain to somebody how you love your grandchildren. It does not mean that you love your children any less.
Just different.
It's just a different kind of love.
Yep.
Right.
And my son lives upstate in New York, and FaceTime, I didn't know how great an invention FaceTime truly was until COVID happened. And that was how my grandchildren would be able to see me by way of the phone.
Right.
But also my children that are not in the same state with me were able to see me at that place. But in the process of it all, I was able to soul search and find some things about me.
Right.
They tell you when you're wearing the hat of a wife, a mom, the nurse and every other title that is over you, you find that a lot of times, not only do women lose their self, but men lose their self. More likely the women, because they take on more of the nurturing part.
And they're more emotional as well.
Yeah.
Lately, a lot of men have been really emotional, but we won't go there.
Okay.
It's just a matter of learning about you. I mean, you'd be really surprised what you tolerated over the years, what you put up with, what you didn't want to put up with, people, the things that you like and don't like.
Mm-hmm.
I have a queen size bed, and I have books that lay in the bed with me because I fall asleep with them, you know, when I'm reading or doing whatever it is that I'm doing.
Right.
But I like to be able to stretch out in my bed and
Because you don't have a dog in bed with you.
no, you know, my dog will jump up on the bed, but he's a small one, so
yeah,
no
teeny
space.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's just kind of different.
Yeah.
You know, like
Women have to. You know, I've taught my girls that they have to do what's called self-care.
Oh.
And if you take care of yourself physically and spiritually and emotionally, when you then become that, you know, empty nester kind of thing, you kind of have a clue, you know, where you have been and where you might want to go, and an idea of what, you know, the future might hold for you.
I think that, excuse me, I think that's for both male and female. And this is also a time when you're empty nesting and you have a spouse. I'm happily divorced. But
me too.
But when you have a spouse and you empty nesting, it's the time when you get to learn each other again.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to get to know. If you've been married for 20 years, you got to get to know 20-year older person.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, when you're young, you don't understand when they say, put your spouse first, right? So you don't really get that. Then you have a health crisis, and then you realize that because I'm taking care of myself, I don't know who's sleeping next to me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I really need to figure that out. So those are some major challenges. It's learning your spouse again.
Yeah.
For those that are married and have one, those that have a significant other, you have to get to know them. This is where a stage where you, as you're growing, when the kids are there, the kids don't necessarily become a wedge unless you allow them to be that wedge. But what ends up happening is dad might be running with that one, and you might be running with that one, or you're running with this group or that group, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And now that you're no longer doing all that running, now you got time to look at the person and be like,
it's an opportunity to
who are you?
Reevaluate and possibly even, you know, reconnect.
And I think during that time, you know, you also have to deal with issues of retirement. Okay, so you retire, he retires. Okay, what do you do then? How do you connect? You know, do you connect?
I know. Well, I didn't have that issue because I've been divorced for a few years. I had another issue, but what I will say is my aunt, she showed me she's a boss. And I know when she knew that she was going to be like a full empty nester, like her son had already moved out, got married, started his family.
Right.
But then when the daughter moved out after she graduated from college, she stayed home for a while. Then, you know, she brought her home. Now she has her family. But before that happened, and my uncle was about to retire, she had already set up trips, cruises they were taking.
Pre-planned.
She pre-planned that.
Pre-planned.
And she was PTA's finest. Okay.
Okay.
And she, like, I literally watched her make sure that her and my uncle would be good, because she knew that they were going to have to get to know each other
All
again.
over again.
Right.
And it would just be them. It wouldn't be the grandkids in the house. It wouldn't be,
Right.
it would be just them.
Right.
And she redid the house. She built his man
Man cave.
over the pool, and she redid her kitchen so that she could entertain her friends here.
Mhm.
Here. And it worked. Like,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
literally watched her make that happen. Like, she prepared
Oh,
for
absolutely.
being an empty nester.
Let me tell you, and planning is so important
Mhm.
because, like I said, I moved out of where I raised my daughter, and I moved into another space. I had planned that space out. It was beautiful. I had a job that kept me busy. I felt good about myself. I had friends. I had a life. I think sometimes women wrap their whole life around their children,
Their families.
their families, and then when the families have grown on, which is a normal state of being, to grow forward, to grow on, then a lot of women say, like, well,
Like, who am I now?
who am I now? What next? They're just you got to figure these. I think it's important to figure these things out along the way.
Yes.
As you
Yes. So that
as
it
you
doesn't-
grow your children.
So it doesn't startle you, when
Absolutely.
you're, and there's also a big difference between being alone and being lonely.
Oh, absolutely.
And so when the house is quiet, like I said, I don't feel lonely at all. I feel nice and calm alone.
Right.
And
Me
it's
too.
fine. It
Mhm.
really is. It's interesting. Like I said, it's quiet.
Yeah.
It's very calm. The aura is very different, and I'm not anxious at all about anything.
Mhm.
Again, I'm fortunate to have my two of my daughters, son-in-law and granddaughter, who live with us as well.
Right.
But again, there are times that they stay in their own
Space.
their own space.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I don't see them for an entire weekend or something like that.
Right.
And it's really quite fine.
Right. And let me tell you, I love it. And my daughter goes off to work in the morning, the grandchildren go off to school, and I'm in the house.
It's like a semi-empty
It's
nester.
a semi-empty nester. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and I enjoy, from the moment I decided I was going to live a peaceful, happy life. I made sure that my choices are in alignment with that. You can't say I want to live a peaceful, happy life and raise hell all the time, or let people raise hell in your life, So I've already decided how I want to live my life. And so the choices I make and the choices people make around me have to be in alignment with my life goal for the rest of my life. Like I tell people, I've lived more life than I have left. And what I have left, I want it to be harmonious
And enjoyment
and
fulfilling.
and fulfilling as much as possible. And you know what? Even though I don't have a lot of extra money, guess what? It doesn't take money to have a fulfilling life.
Not at all.
It's a mindset. You got to decide that this is how I'm going to be. This is how I'm going to live. And and also grateful. I'm grateful that we have a nice roof over our head, food in the refrigerator. It may not always be what we want, but I've been cooking for years. I can turn anything into
Those
a
are the
good
best
meal.
meals.
Yeah, those are the best meals, exactly.
And
So
I'm grateful for it all. The
Yeah,
little things,
the
the
little-
big
the
things,
big,
and everything in between.
that's right. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Hello.
Kat had touched on something that she said about her aunt, which I tip my hat to your aunt to pre-plan.
Mhm.
Because one thing that your aunt was aware of change.
Yeah.
Right.
So, as an empty nester, it's important to plan, but sometimes you just don't. Time goes by really quick, and so I know people that are retiring, and as they retiring, that's a change.
Yeah.
So, it causes a change in you in many different ways.
Right.
You have to decide in my retirement, am I going to sit around? Am I going to redo my house? Think about when you become an empty nester and you have a huge house. Some people that have had the opportunity to plan or decide what they're going to do have able to downsize. And in the process of downsizing, they were able to fund retirement plans or travel plans
Mhm.
or
Just make a plan.
help, you
Mhm.
know, in other areas. I know some people that are helping their children, their adult children with their grandchildren
Yeah,
Mhm.
she
when it
does
comes
that
to
too.
college.
Mhm.
Right.
Um, or the gifts are better because
Mhm.
now you don't have the same concerns and conditions that you have to worry about in the home that you are in or was raising them in.
Right.
Um, the difference is, so when someone speaks to me about my adult children, I always have to say my young adults. I always remind myself that they are adults.
Mhm.
I have to also remind myself that I did the best that I can without
Absolutely.
the manual that people really believe that you
Mhm.
have.
They
when you're
are the
raising them.
manual. Now the grandkids, those are the books. That's
Right.
the book that didn't come that you didn't get when you became a parent. So
Yeah.
now you know what to do with the
You know what?
grandkids.
I think I am a better grandparent than I was
I
a
know
mother
I am.
because I didn't have a clue. I came
Yeah.
from a very dysfunctional
Mhm.
childhood and
Mhm.
trying to figure it all out and even get my own life together and raise her and try and make sure she didn't have the dysfunctional life that I had. Oh my God! As I
Those are
helped to raise my
generational curses.
Gotta
as
break
I
'em.
as I help to raise my grandchildren now, I see things
Differently.
differently than I did
Do
when
you
I
get
was.
the fight back because they think they know everything
Oh.
and you don't? This is my child. This is my child.
Oh, no,
my
my
daughter
daughter-
set the boundary with me real quick.
Real quick.
Yeah, like no, ma, that's not what we're doing. Even
Right.
though I feel like I know what's best, I
Right.
still have to respect her boundaries. But I had to learn how to respect her boundaries.
Right. But you got to make sure, like sometimes I'll say something to my daughter like, but you can do this. You can do this differently.
The
It doesn't.
delivery.
Yeah, the delivery.
Mhm.
Sometimes the delivery can
Presentation is everything.
the delivery makes all the difference in how that child receives what you're saying.
Mhm.
Now I remember when my daughter was young and I was big. I was going to school. I was working full time, trying to raise my daughter, trying to live my own life, and it was just It was overwhelming. And so the only plan I had was be good or die. You know what I'm saying?
You weren't living, you were surviving.
I was surviving. I was in survival mode while I was raising my daughter,
Mhm.
not living mode. Even though we lived well, because I went on and educated myself, got a good job, made good money, but I was still, and I was in my late 40s to early 50s when I realized that I had been living in survival mode all my life.
Mhm.
And so if I wanted to really thrive on all levels of my life, I had to make some different choices. It's good to be a survivor. I mean, you're not going to thrive well if you don't have survival skills.
And part of the survival skill though also is, like Cher said, in being able to adapt to being an empty nester. Then you have to sort of have a plan or have an idea, and then implement it
Right.
and engage it, really wholeheartedly.
Absolutely.
It's very strange. Like I said, in my instance, having adult children live with us, and then when there's nobody there in the house, you say, this is nice, and it's nice for a while.
Yeah.
But you get accustomed to the energy
The energy.
that's
Yeah.
in a home, and downsizing would probably work, in my instance, but there's always somebody coming. There's always somebody who needs a place to stay.
Right.
Or they bring a friend with them who needs a place to stay.
Which is one of the reasons why what you do is you tip your hat to you as well, because
Exactly.
Yes.
a foster parent is a beautiful parent because you're a parent all the same, but the love that you're giving somebody that is not used to it, and if there's somebody needs a place, that's what they know.
My-
See you.
Yeah,
You know?
my kids used to bring home kids all the time that were in different situations. My most recent foster son, one of the other foster kids that he knew, turned 18, mom tossed him out, kid had no place to go. So I get the phone call, can you stay here for a day or two? Okay, a day or two. And of course, when I start that on a Friday, it goes into next week.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't look to sell the house and to downsize, because like I said, I have responsibilities to the other people that are living in my home.
Yeah.
That's because you have a different ideal, and your 36 years with that experience
Wow.
is an
It's
amazing,
phenomenal.
an amazing
Absolutely.
experience.
Yeah.
Because you're right now. One of the hard things for you to be is not prepared to help someone.
Yeah.
You know, as an advocate
To
of
say no.
the underdog
Yeah,
is
yeah.
probably would be the worst thing for you.
It's a different, right, it's now life, now that I'm older also, you know, with my husband, do you make a decision based on your head, or do you make a decision based on your heart? On your
yeah.
heart,
Always your heart.
Yeah.
heart and guts. Yes, which is why we've stayed in foster care for 36
Yeah,
years.
you gotta have a spirit of discernment also.
And you have to have that spirit of love that just fulfills your whole being when you're reaching out and helping anyone, you know, especially children who need
it
that
has
support.
to come from your heart.
Oh, that's what I said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to.
Oh, absolutely.
And
People
it
use-
definitely, you can see it. It's
People-
all over her.
They
She's
used
just
to
a
always
different
ask me,
person.
like, why do you keep doing this? And of course, my answer was always masochism.
That's okay.
You know, I mean, but the thing is that it was a deliberate choice to continue to do what I'm doing. And sometimes too, you know, you have kids who you've had in your home, and then they grow up to be adults, and they call you on the telephone, and they, you know, because they remember something that
Right.
you gave them. When I first met Kat today, she asked me whether or not, you know, did I raise good people? And I, you know, it took me for a moment, and I did. I raised good
Good
people.
people.
You
Yeah.
know, years and years. Khalil Gibran wrote a book called The Prophet, and I still have it, you know, by my bedside. And one of it was that, you know, you could point the arrow in a direction of your children, but your children need to, you know, they're going to find their own way.
Absolutely.
And one of the hardest things for now empty nesters with adult children, you're watching them, you know, scrape their knees. You're watching them make mistakes and errors, and you want to reach out. But then if you reach out, you know, right, like you said, you know, are they going to be offended? Are you going to now do something that's going to change and alter your own environment and plan that you have for yourself?
Right.
There's a lot involved now, you know, when you are an empty nester.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of adjustment.
Oh,
A lot of
absolutely.
adjustment.
And then for a lot of women, you know, that usually takes place around the menopause years. So now you're trying to deal with menopause and all
Try
of
dating when you go through that. Okay?
You
Because
know,
I got the fan on, the AC on, the blanket off.
but you know what? You know what? I didn't have a lot of that, but I did have depression. Depression hit me hard during the menopause years, and I had to work my way through that. So just imagine, you know, working your way through menopause and the depression that comes with it, and the hot flashes, and you know, just all of the changes, the empty nesting, and all of that. Sometimes you need help to get through that. And you know, I would encourage, because when I moved here, I was in a deep. I had gone so deep into a depression that had realized that I needed help, and then was okay with getting the help that I needed.
What was your aha moment where you realized, okay, I need help?
Well, actually, before I moved here, my daughter was standing in the doorway of my office area at home, and I had been sitting there laughing and talking to two little kids. I was in another world. I wasn't even, my body was there, but
You were gone.
I was gone. And so I happened to look up and see my daughter standing in the doorway. And she was looking at me with sheer terror in her eyes. Mental illness runs in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was paranoid schizophrenic.
Mm-hmm.
My older sister, she ended up with some, in the last stages of her life, with some mental health issues. My younger sister, bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's something that I am always conscious of too, even now, because, you know, it just doesn't happen because you don't want it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Once you become so overly stressed and you have mental health challenges in your family, boom, you know. So when I realized, and then I had written an article that was published in a magazine, and I had that article on my wall. And I took that article down and I read it. I had you only needed 3 to be clinically depressed. I had all 11.
Mhm.
All 11 symptoms. And then we were in the midst of getting ready to move here. And when I got here, every time I went to my doctor, I was crying profusely. I couldn't stop. And that's when she says, I have the perfect match for you. She said, you need some therapy. You need to take care of yourself now. And that's what I did.
Self-care.
I went, I got the therapy. The doctor put me on some medication for a little while. I was on that medication for about 6 months, and then I was fine. You know, sometimes you can develop from all the stress in your life, you can develop a chemical imbalance. And that's what
once
had
you
happened.
get that, it never goes away. You just have to know when it's coming, and you have to learn to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth.
And Jen, you also have to know when to hold up, fold up, pack it in, or move it out. You have to know which one of those things you need to do for your sense of well-being at that particular
And
time.
also, your entire being changes. I mean, I once, like I said, everybody leaves the house.
Yeah.
You know, you literally, you stand around in an empty room and you say, okay, now what?
Mm-hmm.
Or you continue to remember, you know, the dolls over here, you know, the bicycle over there, you know, and things like that. And then you start to clean out, you know, from excess stuff. You know,
Yeah.
once you're an empty nester and you say, well, do I keep this because it's got a nostalgic value?
Yeah.
And, you know, or do I keep it because it has some monetary value? And then when you say to your kids, hey, you know, would you like your, you know, your 3rd grade, you know, ballet outfit, you know, and they look at you and say no, you know, and then you say, well, what am I supposed to do with it now? You know, kind of thing. So empty nesting is not always, you know, a gift.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, for some people, I have a friend of mine.
For some it is, you know.
When she became an empty nester, that's when depression hit her. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't have a history of mental health issues in her family, but she felt worthless.
No purpose.
Not valued.
And you know, and conversation, I had to continuously tell her, you are enough.
Right.
Now it's time for you to find you.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time to find the hobbies that you like. So you know, it's reading a stack of 10 books, put them by your bedside, whatever it is that what you want to be entertained. And it was just like, in her mind,
She had no purpose.
she had no purpose to be here.
Yeah.
And I had to tell her, I said, you have all the purpose in the world. You can't look at it as your time. God has a time for everything. The difference is knowing what time it is in your life.
In your life.
You
Yeah.
know, we go
Karen-
through things in seasons, and learning how to deal with your season is hard. So, you know, it's about soul searching, and when you tell somebody that, it's kind of like, huh?
Yeah,
So you
introspection.
gotta find out
Yeah.
who you are from the inside out,
Mhm.
and
Right.
it's not overnight.
Mhm. No.
I mean, I didn't start realizing who I was until after I hit 40.
I was 50.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember
At
40.
that point, when I hit 40, I had to say, you know, I was ecstatic, and I had a friend of mine. She said, "Why are you so happy?" I said, "I made it to 40. I had so many people in my life that didn't make
That
it
didn't
that
make
far.
it. Oh, absolutely.
I made it to 40. Now, who am I?
Yeah.
Now it's time for me to find out who I am. I will be able to be in my own company because I don't mind
You like yourself.
taking myself out and having breakfast. Now, let me tell you, it didn't start off easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn that I could do things in my own company.
Mm-hmm.
A part of empty nesting is learning how to be in your company,
Mm-hmm.
And enjoying
so
it.
you could know the company that somebody else was keeping when they were in yours.
Mm.
So I learned how to go for breakfast. I started with breakfast. I went to lunch. Eventually, I went to dinner. Went to the movies. I went to museums and shopping. I love shopping alone
Me
because
too,
I
love
have
it.
no pressure of somebody saying, "Come on, let's look at this. Come on, let's go over here. Let's do this. Let's do that."
Again, there's a difference between being alone and
And
being
being lonely.
No, I'm not
Exactly.
lonely. I'm with myself. I'm a lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm a
absolutely.
lot. So I'm not lonely when I'm with me. I'm
Exactly.
alone, but I'm not lonely. And
You know,
I believe
You also
in that.
develop self-respect. In addition to feeling who you are, you also develop, like I said, some type of admiration for all of the successes that you've had rather than dwell on any of the failures or things that just didn't go the way you wanted them to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I was, when people see me, I'm always alone. Always. I'm very rarely with somebody else because I enjoy. I mean, orgasmically enjoy my alone time. Orgasmically enjoy my alone time, And when you live in a house where there are, a number of people,
Multi-generations.
I'm able to let some of that excess energy just flow away, and I'm able to just feel myself and be with myself. And I enjoy that. I mean, tremendously, and I'm not trying to be selfish, not that I don't want other people around. Most times I just don't want other people around because I got a lot of people around in my house. And I just need that downtime to recoup and regroup.
Waiting to exhale, you waiting to explode.
Well, I hope that I've imparted to my daughters the importance of the self-care now.
Oh yeah.
While they're parenting, so that later on they have things that they're interested in,
Right.
things that will continue on in their lives, not just being a parent.
Yeah.
And being a parent, for so many years, as many of us have been, that's been your only title, your only job, your only purpose.
Well, we have to be mindful when we speak of we teaching our daughters how to do things.
And sons.
We need to make sure we teach our sons because sometimes men stay in bad relationships because no one taught them or told them it was okay for them not to be in it. Like they don't know their worth. They don't know how important mental health is to them. I could talk to my girlfriends all day long, but sometimes if you pay attention to the males in your life, you realize that they don't talk. They talk. They just don't talk the way we talk. We talk with healing in mind because when you have been through some kind of trauma, you realize it takes you a little while to get there. It's not necessarily overnight, but you learn how.
The learning process.
Talk therapy is huge. It's a really huge part of healing. But a man is not going to see it the same way.
Right.
They don't want their business out. They don't want people knowing that they're going through things. And so a lot of times men will suffer in silence.
Internalize.
You have men that become empty nesters. Maybe they lost their spouse along the way, whether they divorced, whether she passed away. And then they're looking for someone to come enjoy their life with them because they empty nesters. I have a friend of mine, he's raised 7 children, they're all adults, they all have families, and he's raised productive, prosperous adults. Yet, he doesn't feel like he did enough. But no one told him that he could say he did enough. Like, if you look at how you raise your children, I have 3 young adults. I am very proud of what I put into them. And I can see the fruit of my labor in it.
They're a reflection of where they came from.
I grew up in total dysfunction. I won't take that away. Total dysfunction, but I took the dysfunction and I decided as a child I couldn't do anything about it. But as an adult, I make choices. And my choices have to decide if I'm going to stay on that hamster wheel or am I going to break these cycles. So I decided I was going to break cycles. My children are excited now. My adult children are excited now because the holidays are coming. And they can't. The one thing that they're looking forward to, as my son said,
Coming to mommy's.
is family game night.
Yeah.
That was the one night a week. If we had funds, we would get maybe a pizza or something like that. And if we didn't, we would cook at home. But we would have them. I had my children sit down and they would bring their friends in. And we would spend hours playing different board games. And now that they're adults, their friends call, hey, you got some games you could bring. I want to have a game night at my house. It's like, let me call my mom and see what she has. You know, my son, he's been really excited because he's actually around family, and being upstate New York for him, it's an hour and a half drive. But to him, he was so far away that he did, he was uncomfortable in his skin. But now, like, it's like, okay, Christmas is coming. My oldest is coming in from Texas with her family, and the things that they got plans, and
But the plans include you,
yeah,
and that's
Yeah.
that's what it is. So, the emptiness stays status quo, but there's still always the interrelationships with with your children, with neighbors, with friends, with other people,
Absolutely.
that are in the same situation as far as that goes. The idea, I mean, obviously to me, I mean, I don't think I'll ever be an empty nester.
no, I don't
Yeah.
think any of
Yeah.
us will be.
Yeah.
They might not be in our home.
Right, but they're always in our heads and in our hearts.
No, oh, absolutely.
Well, we're gonna go to them, just like Kat said. She's getting her place down in Georgia because
Yeah.
she want to be near
I
her
have to
family.
say this, and when I said everything happens for a reason, right? I didn't realize that the reason was me. So I am so happy and I am so grateful that I'm here today because I was struggling with, that's why I haven't done it just yet. I was struggling with moving to Atlanta for them, staying in Charlotte with my peace. I'm moving for them. Like I was struggling with that. And then something just said, sit still.
Yeah.
You'll get the answer when it's time.
Oh,
I just got the answer because that's what I
at
kept
God.
saying. Like, I want to have game night. I want them to be able to, and here you are having talking about your son. Like, because I was like, I'm not going to rush. Like, I'll just keep going back and forth. But this literally just helped me
to figure it all out.
My
to
baby
put it together.
Yeah, my baby
It's
sister.
time.
My baby sister, who is an empty nester, she commutes between Tampa, Florida, and Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a
Where-
lot.
Where 3 out of her 4 daughters live. So she's lucky
Mhm.
she's got one adult, daughter who lives down in Tampa with her, and the other 3 are in Denver, and her grandchildren, also. So it's a commute.
It's a commute.
Yeah. She
I do
commutes.
it every other week. When I leave here, I go back to Charlotte, and when I get back to Charlotte, then I'm going to Atlanta,
Yeah.
and then I'll be there for like 3 weeks, then I'll be back in Charlotte.
Well, I had told my children, I had a time last year where my health wasn't the greatest. And I had people that cared about me, but I was so concerned for my kids because of their concern for me. Like, at one point we was watching our parents. They was that generation that was next to go. And now I had to realize that we that generation.
We that generation.
We
Yeah.
up next. This is where we are. We at that stage where our kids concern for us and all of that. So my children,
It's a warm feeling.
my oldest daughter is in another state, and my other 2 children, all 3 of them want to be in the same state. Nobody wants to live in the same house with each other. They just
Right.
want to be able to say,
Yeah.
because the one thing I told them is no matter what happens in the world, no matter who you with, you always got each other.
Yep.
Right.
And so in the process of them having each other, they want to live. And first thing somebody said, well, your kids are all going to be there. What are you going to do? I'm going. I'm not going to hesitate. At first I was hesitating, like, how am I going to keep my freedom and my time? How am I going to be able to say, no, I want to be that hands-on grandparent. Yep, I want my space, my time, and my own me time. But at the same time, I wouldn't trade the love that my grandchildren show me when they see me, the smile, the reaching for me, any of that. I like the fact that my adult children look forward to being around me. Do we have to be in their face, in each other's face all the time?
No. You just want to be
Absolutely
present.
not.
Yeah.
I just want to be, I want
A
them
part
to have,
of.
what I didn't have. My grandparents were way older, My mom's dad had passed before I was even born. My grandmother, my father's mother, had passed before I was born. Um, as I got older, my parents became sick. My in-laws, my father-in-law had passed before my two younger ones was really here, and then my mother-in-law passed while they were still little, and so I grew up without grandparents, and then my children are growing up without grandparents. A part of breaking that cycle that you deal with, that dysfunction, is doing what you didn't have.
Yeah.
You either learn from your past and learn to move forward, or you get stuck there.
You keep repeating the cycle.
And I don't want that cycle for my kids. When I tell you, I got 3 college-educated children. All of them are in their college, at their degree fields. They are responsible, productive young adults.
Right.
I love my grandchildren. I have a 5-year-old granddaughter that thinks that she's my mom, and she always wants to tell my daughter on me. And I keep saying, what do you think she's gonna do to her mom? But I wouldn't trade her for the world. We are raising children now, and they are raising children in a different world.
Right, but the thing,
When you realize how different this world is,
oh, it's scary.
it scares the
Scary.
living lights out of you.
Mhm.
With all that's to come, one of my prayers to God is always, help me to prepare for what's to come. Allow me to be in the distance, a close enough distance, that if there's a need, when you listen to the news, they talk about food shortages. When you go into the supermarket, you see them. I want to be able to have that big pot of rice and some beans to go with it, and everybody gets to eat because we in the same vicinity. Not because I have to have them in my house. Being an empty nester doesn't mean that my concerns and my cares go away.
Absolutely.
They actually grow.
They grow.
I feel that I have been more concerned about how you're doing than when you was in the house, and I could see.
Because you were
See.
right. You were able to control, and you were able to see and be physically present. Right. I mean, I'm fortunate, really, really fortunate. I mean, one of my kids popped in this morning, just to stop in, just to say hi. So I opened the fridge. I said, okay, this is for you. This is for you. This is for you. You still care, and you still reach out, but you still say, okay, good. I'm so glad you got in your car. When you drove off, kind of thing. There's a balance between it. There really is a balance between it. Being close to your children and your grandchildren still gives you that opportunity and luxury to get back in your car and go back to your own place.
And yeah, but it's a lot too. Like, I had to learn, even though like my daughter, she sets boundaries with me all the time, but I had to set boundaries with them also.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm still learning how to set boundaries with them, because when I'm there,
You want to be involved.
no, not like that. No, not really. I want to be involved. I want to be present, but I don't want to feel like I'm being stretched thin. Like where I feel like if I'm there too long, I'm gonna end up getting sick. Because every time I go there, I get sick. I end up in the hospital. I had metapneumovirus. I had flu 3, something. It's so much going on that I feel like I'm being pulled everywhere. I'm driving onto the east side, the south side, west
You're
side.
like the rubber band man.
Yeah, and it's like, what are they doing when I'm not here? But
how do they manage?
How did they manage? I was getting ready to leave last Sunday, then my son had a car accident, and then, it's just like, and then here I am, I'm like, oh my God, I'm on my way. And, it's just, I have to.
I'm on my way.
What people don't realize is that being an empty nester doesn't mean you have to be disconnected.
Okay.
I think a lot of people think of empty nesting as being disconnected. No, it's just that your relationships change, and you have more time to connect to yourself and understand who you are at this point. At 68, I'm not the woman I was at 58, 48, 38. And so who am I now? And I take the time to understand who I am now, what works for me now, because what works for me now didn't work for me then.
Right.
And what worked for me then doesn't work for me now. So
Mhm.
it's so important to just understand that if we undertake undertake this understanding that it's a growth opportunity for us,
Mhm.
and then look at who we are now as opposed to still trying to be who we were. And once
Right.
we are comfortable with who we are now, it all kind of falls into place.
Yeah, they have to get comfortable too, because like my kids think I'm still OG. I'm like, and I'm like, no, I'm tired. Like I can't
Tired.
run like I used to run.
Absolutely.
Like, and you know, they're still. We're learning each other all over again.
Oh, absolutely.
But I realize now that because I always wanted them to come to me. Like you can always come home, you can always come back here. Just move back here. None of them want to move back here, and I'm like, well, I don't want to go there. But you know what? I do want to go there. I do,
Okay.
and I think as long as I'm in my own space. I'm in my own space and I can disconnect when I want to.
Right.
I'm okay. But as long as I'm present and I know on Sundays and they want to have game night, we having game night on Sundays. I'm cooking dinner. Like this is what they want. Like my daughter, we always go to this thing called House in the Park in Atlanta every year for Labor Day weekend, right? And this year we went and it was pouring raining. And my son was out there, my daughter was there, and I was just so happy because like this is what we've been doing for years. And my daughter said,
Traditions.
but that's what she said. She said we ain't got no other traditions. She said we don't have Christmas, we don't have Thanksgiving, but we got House in the Park. And I thought about it, and I'm like,
wow. You know what? This has been a really engaging dialogue and very important. And as we come to the end of our segment here, I think and I hope that those who have joined us today have gotten some tidbits of wisdom that you can apply to your life, because you know what? You are important. It doesn't matter what phase of life you're in, whether the children are out of the house, they're in the house, they're around the house, whatever the case may be.
You have to become your own best friend.
You have to become your own best friend. And I think that that's the key to empty nesting, that you become your own best friend, that you embrace yourself. And stay lit. Enjoy your life. You know, like when I had my knee replacement back in May, my oldest granddaughter, who no longer lives in the house, bought me a TV for my room. Now, I never had TVs in my bedroom because I always thought the bedroom was something else, you know, sleeping or something else, you know.
Bang, 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 bang,
bang, bang, bang. Hello. You know, but that's become my sanctuary. When I want to move away from everything else and just have that quiet time, I go right into my bedroom. I close the door. But the kids also know that if they got an issue or something's going on, they can knock on the door and come in, and they're welcome to come in, and whatever I can do to help them to get over whatever major catastrophe they think they're going through at that moment, I'm there to help them, you know? So I think it's just a change of mindset about the empty nester period in our lives, you know, and realize that, you know, if you feel that you're going through psychological problems and you may be depressed, you know, there's help. Reach out. You know, you could call, I found a number, you could call 1-800-333-4997. All you got to do is call. I think there's, you know what? I think there's a parent line too. There's 1-322-289, which is part of that. You know what? That's kind of confusing.
There's all kinds.
But reach out. You know what? There's a lot of support. All you got to do is go to the internet and reach out. Find support for whatever it is you need.
But recognize what you need.
Recognize and then accept it. You know, don't try and push it away because it's real. Whatever you're feeling is real, and you deserve to live whole, healthy, and happy. So we'd like to thank you all for tuning in today to the Sistership Sunday, and be sure to join us again next week. Thank you, Kat, Marcy, Sherry, and you know, thank Terry, our technician over there who makes sure, everything runs smoothly. And thank you, Genesis Radio, for hosting our program every week,
And,
right
and
here.
Sapphire for putting this together.
And for Stephia for putting it together, and Tiffany for getting it out there, and Jane, who is a big part of it. So, we're just glad to be able to bring something positive to you, and hope that you've gotten a lot out of today's program. So for this Sunday, have a good rest of the week, and we'll be right here back with you next Sunday.
Take care now.
Okay, we got it.